Hello and good morning to each and every one of you. Quick reminder, if you watch this after the event, please hashtag replay so that I know you've watched it. And also really important that you start to share some of your feedback with me on how you're going with some of these things. So last week I gave you some handy hints and tips and tools. And I know some of you mentioned that you were going to start using those straight away. So I always want to know how you're going. Good morning, Leslie. Good morning, Helen. So this morning I want to talk to you about the actual consequences on our body that long-term stress and anxiety has. Excuse me. We all need stress in our lives because that little push that the body gives us is generally when something's happened in life and it's basically saying to us, do I need to run? Do I need to do something with this situation? Is it harmful to my body? Is it going to create any harm to me? So we do need a certain degree of stress in our lives because it does actually incite you to move and do something in the face of a problem. But it's the physiological changes that happen to the body when we get stuck. When we get stuck in that stress response from the body, and it absolutely can happen. It's absolutely crucial for our short-term survival for us to get this stress response within the body. But it can be detrimental when it becomes chronic. So when does that start to happen? Well, the physiology of chronic stress, what does it actually do? And what is it akin to? What is it like? So chronic long-term stress, when we get stuck there, is like, I want to give you this analogy. It's like having your foot on the gas on the car, so the accelerator, depends on what country you're from as to what you call it. So it's like having your foot on the accelerator or the gas and your foot on the brake at the same time. So as far as your body is concerned, that's exactly what it's like. You've got your foot on the gas, so you're pushing, but you've also got the foot on the brake. So, excuse me, in the analogy of a car, what would happen? You're going to have really high revs in the car, so the engine's going to be going really hard, but you're not going to go anywhere, are you? So our body is the same. When we get stuck in this long-term stress, it's exactly like doing that, having our foot on the gas and or the accelerator and the brake at the same time. What would happen to the car? Parts would start to burn out, wouldn't they? And we're the same because you've got no release. When your foot's on the accelerator and the brake at the same time, there's no release for the body. And it puts immense pressure on the heart and your other vital organs, and probably more so to the point is the amount of pressure it puts on our internal organs and the other systems in the body that try to run our body in a beautiful, nice, regular pattern all day long. It's just not physically possible. Good morning, Dal. Okay. So the thing is, your body's in a state of readiness constantly. If we're in that stress response, it's always ready for fight and fight. So we sit on the edge like a car being revved, yeah? It absolutely makes sense, doesn't it? And then that puts your body on this ongoing state of alertness, this high alert state. Good morning, Agnes. So that means it's waiting. It's really, really listening for those things that are going to pop out from somewhere, yeah? So this heightened state. And so what are the health problems with this? So we're looking at cardiovascular problems. This is what happened to me. So being under that long-term stress of not knowing how that person was going to come in the door, was I going to be safe or not? what was going to happen. Was I going to be safe or wasn't I? My body never knew. So I was always in this state of high alert because I knew I had to be. So therefore, the consequences on my heart is that I've got increased calcium buildup in my heart because of the chronic stress that I was under for that period of time. So these are the problems we can start to have. Increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, again, that's me, and a constant release of all these stress hormones coming into the body and the blood, which is, it's just not healthy. Yeah, we get plaque buildup in the heart, which again, that's what's happened to me. And then we have a risk of more heart attacks and strokes. And I've done all the other things right. Yeah, everything else I've made sure I've done right. But stress is that big one. It's the one that's silent. It's a silent killer, and it's not quite so obvious. Then we've got immune system suppression. Your immune system just cannot function properly under that stress response. It can't. It's not physically possible because it's just trying to keep you alive. It's just trying to get you to survive through whatever you're going through. So being in that situation leaves you vulnerable to illnesses and also infections, things like that. Gastrointestinal issues. This is a big one. IBS is a huge one from chronic stress. Yeah, because of the way it affects the nervous system. Nervous system cannot keep itself nice, and even if we're under that long-term stress, it starts to affect your gut. And that's something else I had a problem with for a very long time. Ulcers, reflux. So if you keep getting reflux, is that because you have conditioned yourself for long-term stress? Yeah, this is something we all need to think about. And then, of course, there are mental health disorders as well. So that long-term stress puts you at a significant risk of developing anxiety disorders, depression and other mental health conditions, yeah. And then it can lead to those feelings of helplessness and hopelessness and burnout. And then that really starts to severely affect our lives, and we can be sitting there going, I don't know where to move on from here. You feel like everything's in a mess, but it's not. It's just the way you're perceiving everything at that particular point in time. And then, of course, we've got the psychological and the social aspects of being under this chronic state of stress as well. So cognitive impairment, not being able to remember things, forgetting things all the time, leading to mistakes, difficulty concentrating, productivity, maybe becoming lazy is definitely not the word I'm looking for, but we can tend to procrastinate a lot. I'll get to that. It doesn't matter. I don't have to do that today. Emotional exhaustion. And this is a big one. We can become so exhausted from this constant stress. It can be absolutely exhausting. Overwhelmed, drained, that all sort of fits into that. And then maybe unable to cope will be the next thing that we feel. Being irritable, flying off the handle very quickly, especially in the car. That can be a really big one. Somebody actually asked me, how do I keep myself calm in the car? Well, I just really, if something happens, I have to bring my mind back to the breath and bring it back in and say, stop, change. Don't yell at that person, okay? It doesn't make you feel good and it achieves nothing, and that's the problem. It doesn't achieve a thing. Strained relationships as well. So if we stay in this state for too long, our relationships can start to be strained, and that leads to conflict and misunderstandings, and we maybe start to socially withdraw as well, and that can make it really challenging to communicate directly. Yeah, it really can. And don't forget, we absolutely get addicted. I've done one specifically on being addicted to these feelings. Yeah, because without these feelings, if you've been in that situation or that stress response, good morning, Lorna. If you've been in that stress response for a long period of time, we get addicted to those feelings. We don't feel normal without the stress response that we're putting the body through. When it's been long term and that has been your coping mechanism. We can then feel like we need to do something to create that feeling within us because we don't feel alive without it. And that is exactly the situation I got myself in after being abused for 25 years. I got so used to that feeling that I felt a little empty without it. And that in itself can be a little scary if we don't know how to get out of it. So what are the solutions to this long-term stress that we can be under and actually not realize it? Remember, it's the unconscious part of the brain that's doing all of this. It is not a conscious thought unless you make it one. So all in my previous ones, talking about acknowledging and living in the moment and identifying those feelings and the emotions as we're going through them. Next week, I'm going to talk about why you feel other people. And this is a really interesting one because I didn't know some of this. But anyway, I digress. Let's keep on the point, Leslie. So, what are some things that we can do to control those responses that we're getting within the body? So, you know the answers to these questions. You do. So, physical activity. Absolutely. Good morning, Kate. So, physical activity, it releases those beautiful endorphins into the bloodstream and it makes you feel good. These are our own feel-good chemicals. I did a talk on our own the medicine cabinet we have within our body, and we do have the ability to release these fantastic hormones to make us feel better, and physical activity can help us do that. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques, absolutely. That's another thing that can bring you back into your now and bring you back into your breath. Healthy lifestyle choices, a really good diet and getting enough sleep. I know it can seem insurmountable when you're looking at the big picture. But remember, we have to do one thing at a time. You can't try and fix yourself all at once. Go back to your breath. Remember, when you're struggling, go back to your breath and bring yourself back into the now. This is how we start to change these automatic processes, thought processes that we've got ourselves into over the years. Social support, of course, can be really, really helpful. And, if you belong to some groups and things like that, that social outlet can really, really help with those feelings of feeling wanted and belonging. These things can absolutely help. And then getting professional help. Going to a professional clinician to discuss your options and get better coping mechanisms. And that's where I come into it, either physical or mental, because I'm qualified in both fields, either from helping you move if maybe chronic persistent pain is a problem for you, through that chronic stress and anxiety and depression. Maybe that's what it's created. Maybe that is what has manifested for you. Maybe it isn't stress and anxiety. Maybe it's chronic pain, which causes stress and anxiety and depression. So it all fits together there, guys. And we don't want to wait until we have that breakdown. So if you wait until you have that breakdown to address these problems, you're already on the back foot, yeah? You've got to prioritise your health and well-being. Absolutely you do, yeah? So to have that fulfilling life, we need balance, and sometimes we need help getting that balance. So if you end up watching this on my Leslie French Facebook page, down the bottom you'll find a link to join my A New Way Out. That's a private group. So if you're here watching me this morning, you're within my private group and you have access to my guides. And I do suggest that you go back and watch some of the guides, because within there could be that one thing that you yourself have been wondering about yourself. It's all about helping each other overcome we're in the situation we're in because of what we've been through in life. And if we're still carrying the burden of the stress and anxiety from something that happened to us years, months, weeks, days ago, then of course that's going to have a detrimental effect on our health. So if you come back and look at this a little bit later, I will post some more words in there, a bigger picture of what I was just talking about this morning. So always go back, have a look, and you can always book that 15-minute free call with me to discuss how I can actually help you with how you're feeling right now. Doesn't necessarily have to be a certain period of time. Some people can heal themselves really, really quickly when you're ready, but you've got to be ready. You've got to go, I've had enough. I've had enough of feeling like this. I don't know where to start. Because if you've got a lot of things to tackle, and what I mean by that is if you feel like you're a little bit overweight, you feel like you're not very fit, and then on top of that, you've got the problems with stress and anxiety, then you may look at the situation you're in and go, where would I even start with this? Now, that's where I come in, pulling it all back and making this a very simple step-by-step process for you to follow. Because believe it or not, it is actually quite simple. And if you go back and watch what I did last week, remember, when you start to get into your own head in that negative manner, you actually have to stop. You actually have to say to yourself, stop. You can't keep going down those negative pathways, guys. You can't. If you do, you just keep reliving. You're reliving physiologically, remember. Your body doesn't know the difference between what happened to you yesterday or 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah. All right, so have a fantastic rest of your day. I will see some of you around about 9 o'clock this morning for my live class. I do have a website that does have all of my balance exercises on there, and you can join through memberships. But I'm very excited to say that I'm actually in the middle of working out how to get all my cardio on there, all my dance and all of that sort of stuff onto there as well, because I know that's something some of you have been asking me. Can we do your cardio online? Well, you couldn't, but I figured out a way that I can actually get it on there now. So I'm excited about that. So book that appointment with me if you want to have a chat about how I can help you move forward, and have a fantastic rest of your day. And if you do watch this on my Leslie French Facebook page, please join my A New Way Out by clicking on the link at the bottom of the feed, and I will let you in my private group. That way you've got access to those guides. Have a fantastic day, guys. Go back and watch the beginning of this if you missed it, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Love to you all. All right. Have a great one. Thanks, everyone. Bye.